quickly. I too sick, yo. Hey, step inside, I give thanks and the highest praise. Ground myself to my earth, connect out the space.
Hello and welcome to everyone. This is number 10. We've reached double figures. Hello everyone in the chat room. Hello to Loullamae, who is sitting by the side of me.
Hello.
With her amazing headband on, homemade headband and wonderful
It's not
speakers.
homemade.
It's not homemade, even better. So we'll come to that in a minute. And yes, we've reached number 10. So this week I'm going to do a best of album of all the best clips of the first 10 episodes of our wonderful show, which has evolved a lot. I think getting a little bit more confidence at this now, which is great, but also we've kind of discovered that the talky bits aren't really that interesting, and it's mostly about Loullamae's quiz, to be fair. So we do the start bit and then the quiz and the end bit. That's different this week as well, with our wonderful guest on, which we'll come to in a moment. Hello to everybody in the chat. Anyone that's watching on Facebook, it's always worth flipping over to YouTube. Just go over to YouTube, search Mr. Wiggly, and you'll see us live there, because a little bit more happens in the chat on YouTube, and it's a bit more kind of monitored and sort of reactive over there. So most people tend to watch on YouTube, but welcome aboard, whether you have YouTube or not. It's lovely to see you. First in this evening was Martin Taylor, who was there ready to go and beat Keith in Watford. Keith in Watford might have also been there, but he failed to drop a little note in the chat, so he was beaten into second place. Cynthia Sound, hello. Pierre the Acid Clown, hello. Thanks so much for your support. Azio Head, as always. Failed Muso, Rob Puricelli, thank you very much indeed. Talking of Rob Puricelli, go and check out the Pro Synth Network YouTube channel for the show that they put out on Friday with JJ Jesliak, or Jeziak. He is the guy behind the Fairlights of The Art of Noise, was his main band, but he programmed all the sounds for most of Trevor Horn's productions, from Frankie Goes to Hollywood all the way through loads and loads of stuff. Fascinating guy. Kind of stopped making music, really. He's back out there doing some Art of Noise stuff, but it was really interesting from almost like a non-musical perspective. He wasn't particularly a keyboard player. He was a sonic engineer, if you like, and it was really interesting. A couple of hours chat with him, especially when he explained how rubbish the DX7 sounded to Rob Puricelli, who then responded asking that if the Art of Noise was his kind of side hustle. So it was an extremely good thing to watch. So that's the last episode of Pro Synth Network. Look it up on Facebook, look it up on YouTube, and yeah, big round of applause to them for that. I haven't heard him speak for years, so it was a really good thing to get. Hello Andrew Brooks, I'm sorry if I'm missing anyone. I'll pop up some chat as we're going ahead. I have learnt 3 things this week, only 2 of which are true, but the other 2 are can't be true either, so I'll give the 3 of them to you. I'll have to look on the piece of paper here. Let's just switch so there's both of us, so you don't see a head in either side like that. Our guest, Thorsten Heinze, his great uncle wrote Silent Night. That's the first thing I learnt this week. The second thing I learnt this week is Inky the Cat, who is our moderator. She's way more than a moderator, but basically Inky the Cat moderates the chat to make sure everyone's nice, and her job is pretty easy, to be honest, because everybody is nice, almost without exception. And she's really responsible for this show, to be honest, because it was Inky that said, well, why don't you do a show on Sundays? And I kind of said, oh, I'll give it a go. So she's really behind the whole thing, to be honest. But be nice to Inky, because she's doing the moderation. She is related to royalty. Get that. Real, and I don't mean like she lives next door to someone who was ancestrally 10 generations back linked to a king or something. She's proper royalty. And the third, slightly more horrible thing is that on average in your life, people swallow around 8 spiders when they're asleep. So you go through life, there's roughly 8 spiders will be digested whilst you're asleep in your lifetime. One of those isn't true, so we'll come back to that in a moment, but feel free to post everything in the chat that you wish in the answer to those and so forth. We'll be having a little quiz later with the wonderful quiz mistress Loullamae, who is all on standby. Obviously ask her anything as well that you want.
Horse spiders.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Horse spiders in the chat. Right, she's reading the chat here. Poor spiders. I thought you said horse spiders.
No.
Hey, Fat Dust, that's good to see you. So, anyway, aside from all of that, let's meet our guest. Our guest is Thorsten Heinze, who I started talking to because he emailed me about the incinerator, which is the plugin that I wrote, and we were chatting about that, and then we got talking about other stuff. Turns out he lives just up the road from where I used to live, and he is kind of a veteran, a very young veteran of the games industry, making music for games and stuff. And that's always something I've always wanted to get into. I never will. It's always something that I think is probably way harder than you would imagine. And as an industry, it's always something that kind of, if you're sitting here with keyboards in a little studio or a big studio or whatever, and it's your hobby, it's the sort of thing you might want to get into. You're probably sitting there thinking, well, like, yeah, I love gaming, I love music, I got all of this kind of stuff. How do I get into it? So, ladies and gentlemen, can I introduce Thorsten Heinze, who's just had a daddy call in the background? Are you able to communicate?
Oh yeah, that's absolutely fine. I don't know why my daughter knocks the door.
Oh, that's all right. Hey, really, really, really pleased you could be on here. It's so cool to meet you properly, because we haven't really spoken properly outside of kind of DMs. So it's really great. Can you give us a bit of a background as you? I mean, I know that you were born in Germany.
Yes.
You went to Berkely College in California, is it?
Yeah.
Cali.
Berkeley in San Fran, yeah.
And you're now living in West London.
Yes.
And I mean, and you're doing really cool stuff in music for games. I mean, how did you get here in a nutshell?
Okay, yeah. I mean, the games business carried me around the globe. So I mean, I studied, and after studying, I was literally flying around. So I've been in Japan, in Canada, in Europe quite a lot, and all over America, traveling a lot. And then I met my wife, and we married over 13 years ago here in London, and since then we're living down here. So that's how I settled down in London. So.
Right. And in terms of how did you get to be making music in games? Is that something you always wanted to do, or? Yeah,
I mean, I was always, since I'm a little boy, I was really interested in working in the games industry. So first, the main thing which started with was going the QA to games production. So I've relatively early started with that in the 20s. So I've been in the games producers, project management role. So at that time started forming properly.
Gotcha.
And worked then across from at the beginning at Vivendi Universal, which then today has become known as Activision Blizzard.
Right.
So I worked with them, and then afterwards with Nintendo, with Crytek as example for Far Cry. So it just got very varied, and then moved quite a lot around for the different projects, and started years later completely independent. And at that time, also the music production came also additionally up fully. So that's when the music production as an additional part came into. So as I was hired to run the project, I was able also to produce music to the games or to other games. So because I
gotcha. Okay, so you were kind of managing the process to start with for these companies, were you? And then kind of thought, well, actually, I could make some of this music myself. Move in as the artist side of things. That's interesting. I mean, how does one get into this as an industry? Is it I mean, chat guys, anyone in the chat, obviously, ask any questions you want. The harder, the better, actually. But I mean, my question would be, how would I start? Should I make demos? Should I? What do I do?
I mean, a lot of people at the beginning gone in via QA, but I think in today's world, it's become far more specialized. So, and therefore a bit harder to go from QA to everything. I mean, QA is always a good start because you can look into the whole industry and learn a bit. But I think for music production, it would be more like make a proper demo reel. And it's slightly different than what would you do for normal music, because for them, it's important to learn how you can create moods for the same situation where you describe the whole situation differently. And then a lot of games use also interactive music, so it's showing how you can write music which changes over time, which can react to a player's style or to the situation of the game. So there's
that's interesting.
Quite a lot of these things involved. So yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, so QA in the games and computer world in general is quality assurance. It's basically you going in and you're testing stuff fundamentally and making sure it works. It's a hugely responsible role, but it's probably a role that a lot of people can jump into without huge amounts of qualifications, at least to begin with anyway, because if you're good at gaming, if you're good at breaking games and finding bugs, then it's a way to get into the industry, I guess. Obviously, a top flight QA is way more than that, but you know, as a way of getting into the industry, it's a great start. And you're also, I guess, seeing the kind of things that go wrong and what works, and seeing pre-release stuff and really getting your head around it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you see the whole process. You learn bits how parts come into the game, because when you sit in QA, you see how bits and bits of the game come part in, and learn a bit more when these different parts fall together and what's all required. So you're very central to the process development itself. So because you're seeing every step from the whole thing. So yeah,
got you. But now then, okay, so let's just say I wanted to get into this whole thing. Now you're thinking a really good show reel kind of thing. So maybe do I go and get some games and replace the soundtracks perhaps and put together a video reel and kind of show off the broadness of my talent, if you like, rather than here's one piece of music that might fit.
Yeah, and I think often I would even take the same situation and show different attempts for the same thing. So show 2-3 variations, not just one, so that you can show, okay, you can approach this differently and show your variety. Yes, because one thing which is not a given when you work at a game studio is that you don't write only in one style, because each game requires different thing, each level requires different thing. I don't know, if you go, as example, have a adventure game where you race with the cars around and then you arrive in a bar, that sounds different than you driving on the road. Then you go afterwards into, I don't know, in the sports center, there's completely different music. So you have situational elements which change the whole thing completely. So you have from country music suddenly to, I don't know, rock, heavy stuff, techno. Yeah. It changes quite a lot. So you're not locked into any kind of style. You constantly have to really reinvent the stuff for that.
And there's a question in from the chat from Grid Mode, which is really cool. Is there any specific bits of gear that are synonymous with gaming music?
The DAW.
Oh, so it's all in the box.
Yeah, and I think the DAW is becoming central because of the way you can export things. But I think else, I mean, everyone uses different synths. In all honesty, a lot of computer stuff is mostly like the orchestral part. So the Contact became one of the bigger players. So because it's one where you had most available. At the beginning, it was Giga Studio before. That was very synonymous with the stuff because you created a lot of orchestral pieces with that. So like Peter Sigil 6 or whatever. I mean, you had all the famous sample libraries there. That's rather more synonymous with game stuff. But the rest, I mean, it's just like very interchangeable. I think, I mean, I have a Virus TI, a lot of other people had Virus TI. I mean, we had Cork Tritons, we had Jomox bass was used by a lot of guys. So and then it's very hard because it's really the requirement that comes together. So it's not so straightforward because everyone produced different stuff. It's very the variety requires to have a lot of variety of gear. So you need to cover a broad range of sounds. So you can't be locked in a small area.
So you could be doing a big orchestral piece, or it could turn into a big kind of, synth-based piece or whatever, an atmosphere sounds. Is it still thought of in terms of, what's the word, a linear piece of music from beginning to end? Because without getting geeky about without getting geeky about it, I was playing around with Unreal Engine 5 is on the beta, which is an engine that a lot of the games are made, because it has this new audio engine in it, which is basically, if you've ever seen Reactor, you build your own synths effectively, so you can just drag and drop filters and oscillators, and it's incredible. Actually, it is at least as good as anything I've ever seen in a DAW. And of course, you can drop cues in, so you could say, right, well, when the ball collides with the wall, I want the filter to do this, or I want this to fire off the speed of this to change. It's
the
insane. So how does that fit in terms of A, putting my show reel together, or B, I mean, how does that even work when you're creating something?
I mean, that's where the problem comes together. For what's a huge difference to normal music making is with games production. You get a lot of things explained what you need to keep in game. The games producer comes to like, I want these kind of things, calling things. So what you do is you create the same music in a lot of moods. So you have more you have it in the basic variation, then you have more excited, maybe depending on the games, you have scared, like shocked, like I don't know, there's all kinds of moods which do exist in the game so that you can react to it. And it's not that you have games where you have normal soundtrack like you make a music, so you make a big loop, something like 2-3 minutes going loops, but a lot of games going more for the interactive stuff, which is then smaller breaks of it, and then you create snippets which blend between these elements and create out of a lot of varieties of the same element the real soundtrack. So you create something like 60 snippets for which are together 2 minutes, but in reality you can make something like 50 minutes of music out of it because of the way you combine it.
Gotcha.
And it reacts to the player. That's the thing, and the reaction and support what happens is the most important bit. So you need to create the moods over. You need to create a tension, as example. So some games I worked on used the whole thing in a way that you were reacting. The music was reacting to enemies getting closer to you, but you couldn't see them, as example, when they came from behind. But the music made you uneasy, so you felt suddenly like, oh, I need to look around. Somewhere is an enemy, and start looking around. This kind of things make it also far more immersive. So the connection between the player, the music, and the gameplay is very important.
I can imagine. So what you're basically building is a theme for the entire game, and the sections for that, and then all these other fire off bits that all have to crossfade into each other, for want of a better way of putting it. And then the person that puts together the sound effects, the clanking swords and the explosion, is that a different person, or is that your same remit as the sound designer?
That depends on the size of the game. I mean, I worked with guys together, as example, on Forza, where I worked also with Forza Horizon 2, where we had different guys for the engine sounds, to different guys who recorded all the sounds and created all the sounds for all the gear, spring motions, any kind of sound the car makes. Yeah. And then you had other guys, which was a huge variety of guys. So I think it was 30 total composers, which wrote all the music stations. So it really depends. I mean, if it's a smaller indie title, you do everything. Yeah. And with bigger titles, you might work with 40, 50 people together. Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible. Questions from the chat, please, as complicated as they can. Apparently, a couple of Thorsten's mates have threatened to ask really complex questions. Hello, Moby. Thanks for popping by as well. And hello, Sentient, if you're still there. I think you've arrived in Finland with no Wi-Fi, but I really appreciate you dropping by and saying hello. Thank you very, very much indeed. Here's one from James Dyson. I have to ask what your favourite project game that you worked on that you're allowed to say.
Yes. I mean, that was Black Mirror 3, so not to be mistaken with the TV series. Black Mirror 3 is a adventure point-and-click game, but this was the first bigger foray into interactive music. So I worked also on the audio engine, which was used in that. And that was my complex element at that time. So we wrote over 600 different snippets for the different elements of the music. So it was a vastly complex element, and the snippets themselves gone about 1 hour 15. So we had about 13 hours soundtrack out of that.
Crikey. And how long did that take you do as a project from start to finish?
Per scene, we set up all the music bits, but then additionally programmed the interactivity, how it worked. So it was composing about 2.5 to 3 months, somewhere in that range. And then because you create a lot of variations, which is easier to put together. So you write once the main track, and then you take bits away to make it a variety of the same, and change some slight bits to make a different mood. So that's relatively easy to do. But then the integration into the game itself took another 2 months. So to make it really work and put everything together. And
I'm guessing it's like a film; they can recut stuff, I suppose. So are you constantly moving different cues and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, and the game itself was composing it on the fly, so you just gave triggers of moods. So as soon as the user did something, or you walked to the screen and there was a point where a shock moment was instantly switching, or other moments created tension where the music slowly, gradually got more agitated. So it was really interacting on the player. It was really interesting.
Wow. Do you fancy making music for films? We'll do the quiz in a second. I mean, it just sounds so. I'm back. Sorry about that. That was a bit weird.
What happened?
I pushed the wrong button. Sorry, folks.
Did you leave the call?
I think I did. I think you can hear me now, though, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Sorry about that. There was another question, which I was about to click when I actually clicked the back button, which was how long typically are the pieces of music? And I don't mean how long to make. I think what David's saying is a piece of music that you have to compose would be.
I mean, for games, if it's if non-interactive loops, about 3 to 4 minutes maximum. So it's more memory restriction.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you stream from the platform and make it interactive, the pieces themselves are sometimes only 2 to 3 seconds long, but the combinations go then for 15, 20 minutes at least
Wow.
per level. Yeah.
Wow, that is super cool, as James Dyson says. That's really amazing. Just before we go for some more questions, I would just like to remind you of our 3 facts that I learnt this morning. The first, one of these is not true. The first of them is that Thorsten's great-great-uncle wrote Silent Night, which, if that's true, is pretty amazing. The second one is Inky the Cat, who is our moderator and wonderful general all-round person, is actually related to royalty, like proper royalty, not obscure, sort of vague connected to royalty. And the third one is a bit icky. It is over the course of your lifetime, you will swallow an average of 8 spiders whilst you're asleep. Mm-hmm. One of those is not true. So no one's really kind of.
I think the spider one.
You think the spider one? Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, Piero, the Acid Clan, says the spider one. Wagu's saying true, true, false. People down on the spiders. What, they seriously think that Thorsten's great-great-uncle wrote Silent Night? I should come up with more of these, I think.
I think the spider one or the Inky royalty one.
Inky royalty one. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't fit, does it?
It doesn't sound right, but it might be true.
It's really hard. Okay, well, we've seen the votes coming in. Silent Night is false, says Fat Dust. Spider number is very low, says Sentient Sound. What do you think it's more? Wow, that could be. Oh God, imagine if it's more.
Oh.
I mean, I guess if you're asleep, there are spiders in the bedroom sometimes, and they could be like little tiny ones.
Oh, yeah.
They might just wander.
I'm gonna go with the royalty one actually.
The royalty. Okay, so Loullamae is going with the royalty one.
I don't think Inky's the royalty.
Let's see who else is coming in with any of the answers. Right, there's another question here. Sorry, we got slightly sidetracked then, but okay. So you know where Loullamae is going. Callum Rogers, lovely Callum Rogers, who is so supportive of the stream. Do you use some form of templates, or is every game developed bespoke?
I use a certain template, which is the sound setup. So I have a set of orchestra libraries I generally use and place down all these orchestra parts, but the rest is more or less like bespoke dropping to it. So if I want to have a synthesizer there, I just click on it and the track is there. So I mean, I've got them all linked in like a VSTI, so it's external effect, so that's very quickly done. And else VSTI is dropping in, yeah. So that's less template, but the main template is my orchestral setup because that.
So your door kind of template with sounds is set up, and then really, are you exporting a whole bunch of WAVs or AIFs out at different lengths, or is there some kind of categorization that has to occur?
It depends on the software used. Some of them have scripts and plugins into Cubase where you just export with, but the others is just plain WAV exportations, and then it's a lot of project management with correct folder structures, right naming. So there's quite a lot of work for that. Yes.
Wow, I don't know. Wow, it's just incredible. And are you using? Yeah, as you had saying the third, that's the spiders one. Are you using like an Unreal Engine thing at all, or do you stop at handing over the WAV files?
No, I mean it depends really. I mean it's there are a couple of other engines outside Unreal. I mean Unity engine is one other thing, and then there are external sound engines which are also used sometimes. So I'll have involvement sometimes, and sometimes I just hand over the soundtracks. It's really depending on the integration. So that's down to the developers how they handle that. I give my suggestions, but it's their decision at the end.
And how do you get inspiration? What do you do if I came along and said, right here, I've got a game. You've got a month.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a look at the game, and if I feel like really stuck, then I just randomly pick a couple of random movies, listen a little bit, play 1 or 2 games which are not related to what I do at the moment, because I'll need to get my head free, because usually something stuck is just something overloading me, so I try to relax as much as possible.
Yeah.
and then go back, and then mostly start with some kind of melodic parts. So because underlaying stuff with orchestral elements is relatively known how to do that. So there's a set of rules how it can help you to set orchestral pieces as soon as you got the chords together and know what kind of key you play in. So you can work that down. But the melodies are usually the most key emotive parts. So that's where I write bits, and what I do is randomly put things together. I write down, play a bit, and then I say, okay, I keep this bit, and at the end I figure out ways how to bridge parts. Yeah.
Wow. It's as David says, it's really different to songwriting. I mean, it totally is, and it's a moving target. It's a massive moving target. At least with songwriting, you're kind of in control. You decide when something changes, and you move the goalposts or whatever. Just amazing. Okay, just a quick reminder, if you're watching on Facebook or Twitch for that matter, brilliant, thank you very much. It's more fun on YouTube, so hop on over to YouTube. Just search Mr. Wiggly on YouTube, you'll see it showing live, because in general the chat's more interesting, and we try and accumulate all the chat together, but it never quite works as brilliant as it might. Let's have a quiz. Should we have a quiz? So we're going to do Loullamae's amazing 9-year-old best quiz on the internet, for which there are no, well, I was going to say no wrong answers. No, that's absolutely right. You need to be telepathic to get the answers, but it's open to
There are wrong answers. There's only one right answer.
Correct. So it's open to everyone in the chat. And after that we'll come back, and maybe you can give us a little show around the kit that you're using and how it's all there. Would that be possible? I don't know if you can twist your camera around a little bit.
Yeah.
If it is, it's not a big deal, but it looks pretty fascinating where you're sitting, to be honest. So, okie doke, are we all ready?
Yay.
Welcome to Loullamae's amazing best quiz on the internet, and I will hand you over to Loullamae herself. We have, I always forget, but I think the record is a 3.
It's a 3.
And was it a solid 3, or was it a 2 and a
It
almost?
was either 2.5 or a 3.
Okay, so if you get solid 3, then you're ahead in all the leaderboards, Thorsten. Obviously, you got the chat there that can help you too. So stand by in the chat. Are we ready? Over to Loullamae. Here we go.
Okay. How many pancakes did I eat for breakfast this morning?
3.
Ooh. No.
So over to the chat.
Someone else said 3.
I think I'll pop up in the corner here. So 4 from Failed Muso, 8 from Morgan Juniper. How big were the pancakes, says Morgan? Well, they were kind of normal sized.
Yeah, normal size.
That sort of size.
Someone said got it right.
Fat Dust, Rob Fat Dust Hetch, who is a good, hopefully I pronounced that right, got 0. Trick question.
Trick question. Someone said 298.
James Dyson said 298. How very dare you? Nope, the answer was 0, and Fat Dust got it right. So a point to Fat Dust in the chat. Very, very well done. Okay, over to question 2.
Okay.
Switching quickly to question 3. I'll pass a note to my very humble assistant over there in the corner in a second. Yeah, we're not set up for that one. That is a very good point. All right. We might have to miss that one. We'll save it for next week. Okay, over to Loullamae for the second question, which is number 3.
How many steps have I done today?
Some days I'm not too busy, so 350, roughly.
Do you know that? Have you looked at your watch? You do know. Okay.
It's more than that.
More than that. Get it to within about... What is it? Oh, gosh. No, it's more than that. Fat Dust is 5,000.
Someone says 15%. Oh, someone's really close.
Who's that? Who's really close?
Wait, no, they're not close, sorry. That was like, someone was really close. But it's more. Oh, someone's close.
Who's that? Which one? Man Boom?
No, Will.
Will Joseph?
Ooh.
15.
Oh my word! Oh yes, that is incredible. Well done, Will Joseph.
Someone said 8 billion.
8 billion steps is kind of trying hard there. Will Joseph, what was the actual number?
4,015.
Good work, Will.
Yeah, well done.
I've got to say, Thorsten, you're going to have to work a bit harder at this. I mean, I know they're hard, but
They are.
honestly, I don't know how anyone gets the right answers to this thing. Okay, Keith in Watford, 4,928. Good shout, I suppose. Not quite there. 1 billion from Mark. That's pushing it. And Will Joseph is a worthy winner of that question. Okay, so let's pop on to a question number 3. Here we go.
Where am I going with Poppy next week?
Whoops. Where are you going with Poppy next week? Wagyu, we did ask that question before about the steps. Wagyu's saying that's much lower than last time. She was up to 19,000.
That's because it was a school day last time.
Ah, cool. Yeah, school days.
Because I don't do as much steps on this day, and it's a summer holiday.
Gotcha. So basically,
Do you do your sports day next week?
we finished school. Luli's school has finished on Friday.
I'm in year
breaks up-
5,
Yeah,
kinda.
breaks up 2 weeks early. It's really lucky. And sports day was kind of cancelled for parents, which was sad because I knew I was going to win the daddy's race, but not. But so actually this is kind of first weekend of holidays for us, which is incredible. I forgot what the question was. Oh yeah, where is Loullamae going with Poppy next week?
It's a birthday trip.
Yeah, it's a
It was meant to be in January, but it was COVID, so.
Yeah, so it's like a destination kind of thing. Wembley from Will Joseph? No.
No, not zoo.
McDonald's
Not France.
And a theatre. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? The zoo? No. Sainsbury's? Yeah, we've been waiting a long time for that birthday treat to Sainsbury's.
We've been waiting all our lives to go to Sainsbury's.
A rock concert, schools. Yeah, I know, Andrew. You're 3 weeks to go in the school. There's something
Camping
about
in a field?
schools
No,
in West
Legoland, I'm
Sussex.
going that with Amelia.
Okay, Legoland is really close, and Chessington is really close as well. It's it's one of
We're
those.
not going to pictures. Oh, and we're not going to a haircut.
Not a haircut.
Yeah,
Alton
waiting
Towers
on
is a
life.
good one. Rob's on a roll here.
Fishing. Restaurant. No, we haven't waited for ages.
Thorpe
for
Park. It's a theme. It's a theme thing.
Is there lots of ropes and hats?
No. Are you sitting in quite a small
Pancake land.
pancake lands?
Fishing to Scotland.
Legoland fishing. Oh, I'd love to go fishing in Scotland.
Legoland.
Not to the pub, James Dyson. Okay, we need a clue.
Okay.
Let's see if we can help Thorsten out here.
Oh, someone got it!
Oh, Piero the Acid Clown.
I was just about to say.
Fantastic.
That's what I hinted at with the ropes and hats.
Ropes and heads. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Oh, I didn't
no
get
worries.
I didn't get the link. Oh, you should have said. Oh, well,
no
maybe
worries.
we'll give you a half for that.
Points.
What happened?
He hinted that it could. Is it something to do with ropes and heads? And I didn't click that was a Harry Potter kind of link. You should have said wizards. Wizards would have done it. Well done, Mark Gardner. Very, very good. Piero the Acid Clown. Anyone in the chat that isn't aware of Piero the Acid Clown, look up, I guess, Piero the Acid Clown on Facebook and Clown Fest and all that stuff. It's really, really good. And he runs a thing on Facebook called the URL, which is the Unsigned Review Live, where you can put your tracks in and people chat about them and you get exposure, and it's just everyone is super friendly. So yeah, absolutely. A well-deserved winner from Mark. Should we have one more?
Yes.
One more or two more?
2. Maybe.
Two more. Okay, two more
Got
questions.
my bracelet on, 'cause
You
I
can
found it
still
on the
get
floor.
2.5 here if you
Okay.
get the last two right. Oh, Andrew Brooks says you'll absolutely love Harry Potter World. It's amazing.
I've
So,
never been, so yay.
brilliant. Yeah, it should be really cool. Okay, here you go, Loullamae.
Oh, Maggie didn't even know it existed. Me neither, too. It was organised.
All right. Pick a question from the last 4 that are up there. You can have whichever you want. Keith in Watford lives just up the road from there.
I'm going to pick a hard
Sorry.
one.
Oh, because the others were easy, right?
No, it's extremely hard.
Okay.
We talked about this one and you
Okay.
said it was really going to be really hard, but I'm not sure if this is going to be hard.
Go for
I
it.
don't know. When is my birthday?
Yeah, that's a 1 in 365 chance. So
That's difficult, yes. With no relation to who before, it's a wide shot in the.
well, Fat Dust is close.
January.
Someone said this year.
23rd
I would
of
say
February.
about
No.
12th January.
Yeah.
12th of January. No. If we're dealing with a year starting in January to December, you're up the wrong end.
Someone nearly got to your birthday.
April. Yeah, April's good. A good year for birthdays.
Not January.
Well, let's go for the month, shall we? Let's see.
Then November. But
It's not the day I was born. December, August. And no one's actually said the month yet, interestingly. Yes. Yes.
No,
Yes.
someone got it.
I don't believe it. That is 100% spot on. David Serchek. Amazing. Absolutely
Yay!
amazing. Incredible. I'm blown away by that.
Wow.
I think you get 2 points for that. It's a bit like Ty Unwin when you guessed your 2 friends.
Oh yeah, when he got Lily, and then after that he just got Archie, and we're
Lily
like,
and Archie on the same.
what?
Well done. Well done. Right. Thank you so much for
Is
that
there another
quiz.
question after this?
Did you want another one?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
No
Let's see.
questions. Put them up. Okay.
There
That's
we
a
go.
funny one. No, I
that
got
sounds good.
Yeah, what's the funny one? This one. Oh yeah, do that one.
No.
Yeah. Well, it's up to you.
No, I'm not gonna do
Okay,
that.
quickly choose one then.
What's Sammy's favourite colour? Sammy's a cat.
Green.
Oh! Green.
That's not.
It's not. Is that not Sammy's favourite colour? That's Frank's favourite colour.
Yeah, it's Frank's.
Oh yeah, no. There's Frank and Sammy are cats. Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. You obviously got muddled up because green is Frank's favourite colour, but Sammy's is
Not red, not orange, not yellow, not purple.
yes. Absolutely brilliant. Thorsten gets the blue, and he got it in before anyone else in the chat as well. Fantastic.
And it's also mine.
And he's your favourite as well.
Mine
so
too.
1.5. Saved the day. Saved the day with
3
1.5
people's,
points.
and yours is red.
Which is the mine is red too, yeah. So which is I think you drew with Mark Gardner, Pierre the Acid Clown, who was the very very first guest on here with 1.5. Although the 1.5 I think came from his fiance. Really, it was a bit of a cheat. And yes, I did say April is a good year for birthdays, which is
No,
clearly
November
something
is.
wrong. Right, thank you very much, Loullamae, for your wonderful quiz as always. Big round of applause from the chat, please. Thank you very much.
Wow.
And let's flip back to Thorsten because I want to see all this equipment and kind of how you go about making a track, if that's all right. Your kind of logic behind doing it.
Spell my name right.
Are you going to stay up here or are you going to head off? Up to you. Quickly though.
Okay, done.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks ever so much, Loullamae, for joining us. Just going to go and chill out downstairs with your beautiful outfit. Let's just untangle you. Nice one. All right, say goodbye to everyone.
Goodbye.
Nice one. Thank you so much.
All right,
And
mate.
well done. Well done. Okay, so in terms of the synths and the equipment that you're using, do you tend to produce everything from there, or are you going to other studios and remastering stuff, or are you a kind of unit in the way that it all works?
Previously, I did run to Soul Studios for mixdown. So I write the stuff here on site. I have sometimes some stuff. Sadly, a friend of mine passed away last year where I did a lot of guitar recording stuff. So they did some guitar bits for me. But now it's pretty much everything home focused for the whole writing. There's sometimes a rare music instrument which I use in someone external for. So get their WAV files in. So produce some bits.
Gotcha.
Accompaniment. They write the stuff back, I'll fit it in, but the majority is happening here all on site, yes.
So, what can I see behind?
Okay, let's have a look around. So, we have a Quantum up here, the Quantum with a couple of older synthesizers down there. So, it's Livm, 8-bit, Ambika. We've got Blofeld hidden under there. So, we've got the old Virus TI. We've got a Hydrosynth. DeepMind 12, we've got a Triton rack, we've got a Microwave 2, slightly above an SEO2. Then we've got up there the Argon and the Cobalt sitting. And then here, when we go over here, under the Quantum, we've got the Matrix Brood, which I then connect with the B2600 as well as the Crave via the cable. So because of Matrix Brood, I've got the 12 in and out for CV.
Gotcha.
And just below, I've got the System 1, which I have here. I've got the Wave State synthesizer, and below that, I've got Dreadbox Typhon. I've got the Digitact, and I've got the lovely Spark from Arturia. So I've got the big set there, and as you can see here, a Rolly Seaboard. And I've got just a moment. I'll need to push things in because it's all a little bit tight built. And
That's
my
incredible.
Elite Fusion as my master keyboard below here. So that's my whole set. And then I've got a space for guitars on the side where they can hang up, and I can work with the guitars from there.
It's just amazing. It's like a work of art how everything just slots in.
Yeah, and it's all range in my hand, so I don't need to get up for anything. Everything I can just touch with the hand to work straight away.
And like Will says, it's a really nice collection of synths, a real cross the board kind of, each one providing its own kind of sonic weight to the whole thing. Do
Yes.
you end up using them all? Or I mean, I've got quite a few bits and pieces here, and there's definitely 2 or 3 synths that actually don't get switched on so often. It just tends to go back into the box because I'm lazy. But I mean, in the real world,
the Ambika is one which is the second least used, and Livm very, very rarely used. But Livm is for very specific. If it's like indie games often end up with it when they want to have a chip tuning thing, then the Livm is perfect for it. So that helps really well with that part. And the Ambika is very specifically used when they want to have, when the digital sound is really helpful. So because sometimes they want to have a more analog sound, so therefore I've got all these stuff like the DeepMind and Matrix Brood and all that. So the ranges are a bit different. But I think the rest is relatively strongly used. I mean, Triton Rack has some strong sounds which I use for pads, and most of the time I use things also in combination. So I don't use one single synthesizer as example. Often for bass, I create them out of different things. So where my favorite combination is, as example, SEO2 with the Waldorf Wave Microwave 2 to create my bass. So because I'll design different parts of the sounds with the different parts. So the attack part comes usually then from the wave, and then the follow on and the sustain tail is strongly delivered from the SEO2. So therefore they have quite a punch. But it's quite gritty. So it's really a combination of things. So I'm trying to use them creatively.
And how do you handle things like recalls and tweaks and stuff, or do you tend to get lucky and just sort of re-record something if there's a change required?
As long as it's not the guitar or my Taishigoto, it's a Japanese harp, it's okay because everything is MIDI. So therefore it's a lesser of a problem. It's more of a problem with the Behringer 2600 because I keep that when I work on a piece as untouched as possible. Yeah. Because as you know, Total Recall is a pain on these old things. But aside from that, the rest, all the others are completely Total Recall. It makes no difference. That's why I'm personally also happier with the SA2 than having a mini mode now, because that would again have the Total Recall.
Yeah,
problem.
no, you're right. You're right.
For
You're absolutely
my
right.
type of work, it's really quick. The SA2 can be completely remotely controlled from the DAW, every single aspect of it. So I can store that, and if I need to do a tweak, I'll just tweak it and then just export it again. It just takes a couple of seconds when they say, okay, let's make it a bit more bright, change this, and they listen to the song and say like, okay, this is what we need. You give them 3 examples, and they say perfect, and you just re-export the parts which are involved. So it's a very automated process, because
which is another lovely reason to have everything set up like you've got it. Actually, it's all there. It's all exactly the same format. You can fire patch changes off or filter sweeps or whatever you want. It's brilliant. Yeah, good luck with the 2600. I have to say, I love this Behringer 2600. I've got one here. I had my name down for the Korg, the original expensive Korg, and they didn't have one in stock. So it's not for want of trying.
A little bit. As I told you earlier, I use a matrix brute. This is my cheat for the 2600, because I use in matrix brute CV outs as controller for the different parts. So I do have already a little bit cheated on a higher scale there. So because the only thing which I need to do is get the oscillator on tune, but that I'll do with the tuning from Cubase. So I just checked that the tuning is fine before I started, and then the rest is really high level cheating from the matrix.
I like that idea.
26 cables coming down from there.
Wow. I really like that idea. I mean, I was going to say, even if you took a picture or put marker pen or something all over it, it wouldn't sound the same, because the sliders are just, you literally touch them. But I've got to say, the sound is brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
I just love it.
Yeah, I've got one. I'm going to do a show on it anyway, but I'd love to have had a Korg one here as well. But honestly, really, really good sounding thing. Thanks, Tim Grogan, for those kind words in the chat. It's really, really kind of you, and good to see you live on the stream as well, which is nice. If everyone could, or if you're enjoying this, if you could give a click on the like button. I know mostly on mobiles the like button disappears when you're watching the live chat. But a like and a follow obviously really helps. I have a question from Will Joseph. Question for Thorsten. Does the gaming industry have the same tight deadlines as when making music for film?
It also has the same funny extras like the music for film, that when they just suddenly decide to change the cut of the film, we have that with, they change the game level, remove game levels, change the storyline a little bit, and you need to deliver in best 10 minutes before we talked. Yeah, this kind of thing, yes.
Man.
That's why I'm also very relying on Total Recall, because I don't have the time for flipping around too much. Yeah.
Wow. It reminded me of an interview I read with the guys that did the music for, is it Stranger Things, the Netflix? I can never remember the name of the thing, which is very modular based. And they've got an epic looking studio, some lovely stuff, and it sounds great, very 80s kind of vibe, but one of the main themes they made with a big modular, which they then couldn't unpatch or use for anything else, and it literally sat there for the 2 years of the 2 series, just in case, or at least for 1 series anyway, in case they came back and said, well, actually we need you to speed up the theme tune or whatever it would be, and that was it. It just, it couldn't be moved. I mean
modular I do also, but I'll have Cherry Audio for that, so I'll have that inside the machine.
Okay, they're on fire at the moment, aren't they? The stuff that's coming out of Cherry Audio. Any recommendations? I've not tried too much of it myself.
I mean, I'm quite happy. I mean, I don't use it as exact emulation. So what I create out of these modules, like the Korg MS-20 and whatever. I create all synthesizers out of that, and I'll also combine them with the outboard, like the Matrix Brute filter or something like that. So, I'll go out there, and if you use them as their own and don't try to nitpick, this is not exactly this kind of filter from this one, but use it for what you get, and if it's exactly sounding like what you need, then it's absolutely perfect, because it provides absolute Total Recall. It's very flexible. You can send the audio out as well as a MIDI, which you create. You can turn the CV gates into MIDI information and send them to any other synthesizer and really combine things heavily. And that's one thing I really love to do. So I'll put external synths back in the DAW into the Cherry Audio, combine them with the Cherry Audio part, and also control from Cherry Audio via MIDI the external synth. So I'll just mangle that together, and that creates really massive sounds. Yeah.
Right. Right. Oh, brilliant. That's interesting. That's really interesting. I love the trick with the matrix brute CV outs as well. I think that's something that's one sitting behind me and it never even occurred to me. So it's a really neat idea. Is file size a major issue anymore? I remember reading about how they made the audio for Grand Theft Auto.
Yes.
And I know this was a long time ago now, but things like in the car when you're driving around, you've got 20 different radio stations, and they had to compress each radio station because it was like an hour's worth of music on loop or something. I mean,
they stream. They stream additionally, so it's really hardcore.
Exactly, and there were crazy limitations. I mean, how does that work these days?
Yeah, I mean, you still have crazy limitations. I mean, even if you work on Switch titles or anything like that, because the majority of the budget goes to the 3D object and textures. Let's be honest. Music is in that way the fifth wheel on the wagon. But you get a decent budget, but lots pointing more towards the streaming part, especially if it's interactive, because you can't put it in a memory anymore. It's just too much things. So there it comes really down to chunk sizes, which are super quickly streamable. So therefore, it's really not longer than 2 seconds per chunk. The organization, how you put the files together, is super important, so that the file names are very logical. And when the files are packed together at the end, also for the 3D objects and everything else, there's a logic how they put the files onto the data system, so they really look, and you need to define which one is a priority, which files used together, and these are put together in one area to load them quicker. So you try to minimize jumping. Yeah.
Wow.
Especially for DVD Blu-ray mediums, it's super important. On the cartridge for Switch, it's not so much because it's the same. It doesn't matter because it's just memory. It's there. So it's instant. But for the others, everything which really requires any kind of other medium, you need to.
I just, in my head, I was kind of thinking when I'm playing a game online with, say, a PlayStation or whatever, I'm just assuming all the sounds I'm hearing are pretty much coming off the disc and stuff, but they're not, are they? They're all coming in the online versions of GTA, for example. I'm sorry to use that as an example. I know it's a really old thing, but a lot of them are literally streaming in as I'm wandering around, right? Because there's just not enough room for the world is just too vast to have it all.
I mean, you have basic effects, so like the walk, this kind of things, and then when you go to the driving, it streams in the basic set for the car you are jumping in, because as you know, in GTA you have hundreds of cars, and each of the cars is separate. So you just quickly aim to get the basic sets for each of the elements and then stream that in, and then you have the basic set for it, but everything else which is uncommon, which also doesn't require instant interaction, which can come slowly, is streamed, just purely for memory management,
Just incredible. I don't know how you do it, to be honest. I mean, I know it comes with experience, and you obviously know very clearly what you're doing, but it's just incredible. I mean, it's going to be a lot more than put together a show reel to try and get a job. You've just got to. Your QA idea actually is get into the company in any way possible and try and work your way into it and learn it as you go through is clearly a good way of doing it, right? If people are here are thinking, this is something for me.
I mean, for music, if you find a project where they want to have a secondary guy helping the main music guy, that's also a very, very good entrance for musicians to go in there. So that's one thing. And often they use ghostwriters also for writing stuff. So it's the Hans Zimmer method of if you write a lot, then one guy leads it and just delivers it to the other.
And there's a team, right? Have you got any space there for an assistant?
In my room, not really. But to be honest, I mean, I can put you next to
a mezzanine floor. Just throw in the balcony.
If you want to loft, my desk goes literally to 2 meters 40, and it's 10 centimeters to the ceiling.
Oh my gosh!
So I created it to store stuff. So
what's the heat like in there? Have you got it? Does it get hot?
Till 1 o'clock, it's okay. After 1 o'clock, I wish I would live in Japan, because then we would have an AC system which works. But we're in UK, and any tech related to climate control is really not a common thing. So I mean, I've got window blinds which just cover it down and keep the window open.
Right.
Keep air moving.
This is in your house, right? I'm assuming this is a room in your house. It's just amazing. I mean, we were chatting very briefly before the stream, and like the precision on your drawers is just amazing. The tolerance between the two drawers coming in and out, like down to
Yeah.
the millimeter, just to make the whole thing fit. Is
Yeah,
there space for any more keyboards on your? Have you got anything on your list at the moment?
I mean, I have one space which is literally above the monitor and the organs where I can put something, and up there is another space. Before there was a MS2000, so an MS2000 space and a Roland FAO6 space. That's what I have left on the top, and I can somehow hide something under the Elysis Fusion somehow in a hidden storage, but I wouldn't call it a real place.
I think James Dyson said he had your MS2000. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or does he? Yeah, brilliant. Nice
Yeah.
one. I've got one. I lent mine actually to someone else. They're really cool. I like them.
Yeah, I mean, that system suffered a little bit on my end from the lack of use due to the fact of the other hardware which I had. So that
Yes.
was, but I think it found a great home with James because he loves it.
Well, I've a friend who was just kind of getting into synths, and it was a great machine to go, I want to know how the synths work, because it's got a great little sequencer on, everything can be controlled. And no, really, really good. Pierre Diasclan says his MS2000 came from Sony. I know he picked up an MS2000 quite recently, actually. That's cool. It came out of a Sony studio. Just very quickly, the last chance to get to know whether the 3 truthful or failed things. One of these is not true. Thorsten's great uncle wrote Silent Night. Inky the Cat is related to royalty, and you will swallow an average of 8 spiders whilst you're asleep over the course of your life. Wow. Loullamae said it was the royalty, I think. I think it was. Yeah, she went with the royalty. So I think you have to put us out of our misery about great uncles here, whether that's true or false.
Yep, it's true. My great uncle Franz Xaver Gruber is the one who wrote the music.
Wow. Just incredible. Just incredible.
I mean, my family is since 1,200 documented musicians, so we got a lot. It's a lot of like house and chord composers.
1,200 documented musicians in your family?
No, since 1,200.
Oh, so I was going to say I don't even have 1,200.
Yeah, no. My family is very.
Wow, so you can work your way back on your family tree, way back,
Yeah.
and see what. Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
My uncle, as example, my uncle was the first violin in Karlsruhe State Opera for ages, and my grandpa taught violin and guitars. That's where I learned, and compositions. That's where I learned the stuff from him.
Oh,
My
that's
grandma
magical.
was a piano teacher. The other uncle is a trumpist. So
Wow.
yeah. So it's
Written in
Very
1816, says Mark. So I mean, just incredible. It's just that legacy of songs like that and tunes like that. It's just amazing. Do you know what kind of a person he was? Do you know much about him as a?
I mean, mostly what historical books say, so it's kind of not so transparent. I mean, we know all that there were at the time he had lots of sad things with family and kids and with health and everything. And
yeah.
I mean, it was a hard time in Germany at this time, so he moved quite a bit around. So, but he had very good jobs, and he worked together with a writer for the music. So,
Wow.
So he worked. The writer was writing the text for Silent Night, and he was composing the music. So it was
Yeah.
one of his biggest thing to overcome also some of the downsides at his time. Yeah.
Wow. Just incredible. What a legacy. I'm so glad that the music is continuing down through your family as well. I mean, I'm sure he'd be doing what you're doing now, to be honest, if he was alive now in the kind of the leading edge. It was leading edge back then, doing things like Silent Night. So amazing. Yeah. So that is true. And for some reason, pretty much everyone thought that was true as well. So you've obviously got an eccentric musical ancestral face or something, or it's just very common knowledge and I was the only one who didn't know.
You can have a look at the picture. He looks like my grandpa, and I look like my grandpa.
Oh really? Oh,
It's
check
hilarious.
out Wikipedia then. Oh, I'll have a look in a second. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Inky the cat is related to royalty. Well, unless she was fibbing, she is. So Inky needs to. Here we go. Inky has already happily entered into the chat. My father is the oldest boy of the oldest boy of the oldest boy, etc. Directly back of the Bainlan clan in South Wales who ruled South Wales. Basically, if Inky was a boy, she could be king of South Wales, which is just incredible. Yeah, amazing. And so it's the spiders. There's a common myth that you eat 8 spiders a year in your sleep, which has been supposedly disproved, but you certainly don't eat 8 over the course of your lifetime on average. So there you go. So a lot of people got that right. I'm going to have to think harder next time. We got Will Joseph didn't get it right for a change, which is interesting. But I think pretty much everyone. James Dyson decided that 2 were false and only 1 should have been. Wagyu got it correct, and I'm probably doing a lot of people a great big disservice. Yeah, Piero the Acid Clown was correct. I know that even if he didn't say it. So yeah, really, really good, really on the money. But I'm still blown away by your great uncle. I just think it's absolutely fabulous, and it's not that long ago, 16. You know, that's 4 generations, right?
Yes.
How quickly we forget this stuff. 4 generations ago to be doing that, it's just incredible. Okay, I think we kind of done this. I mean, lovely to have you on again, actually, and just talk about more in detail about the workflow that you actually do making a tune. Would be something if you fancy that coming back at some stage, because I'd love to see how you do it, if you see what I mean. Okay, here's a piece, here's how I start or whatever. That would be cool.
Yeah,
maybe we could do that offline or something, because it's fascinating, and I know loads of people have been saying to me that it's something that they just want to get involved with. But like everything like this, I think people underestimate the complexities of producing this stuff, as we've found out. So thank you very, very much indeed for your time and your trouble on this. It's really good. Thank you. And if I can just put a bit of a shout out to support. Hang on a second. Failed Muso says, my great grandmother was the daughter of one of the kings of Savoy in Italy. Amazing. My mum's vaguely related to Rob Roy. And yeah, that's exactly right, Mark. How much has changed in that time? 100 years. It is. It's 150, isn't it? Just it's shocking. Shocking how we don't learn from history. Anyway, a bit of a shout out for my incinerator plugin. If you haven't bought it, which I think pretty much everyone in the chat already has, go and check out the mrwiggly.co.uk website. There's 2 ways you can support the stream. One is by buying the plugins, and you actually get something for your money. It's £20, and it actually sounds really cool. Ty and Wynn said it was the best. Everything he puts through it sounded amazing, and it's the best thing he could have spent £20 on. And he did buy it. I didn't give it to him, even though I wanted to. The other way is that Loullamae has a charity a charity website set up like GoFundMe, and there is a link to it on the mrwiggly.co.uk page as well, collecting for Great Ormond Street Hospital, which any money that she raises through the school or through people donating, and she's raised £200 so far. So you could buy my plugin, but I would be really, really happy if you threw some money Great Ormond Street's way, even if it's only a couple of quid. So go to mrwiggly.co.uk/live, or there's a link off the front page, and it'll give you all the links to all of that stuff if you enjoyed the show. Other than that, just trying to think if there's anything else. I'm sure I've forgotten. Not sure anyone's lined up. Pardon?
Best do both. I love the
incinerator. Great. I mean, it was really incredible. She just decided that she wanted to raise some money, and within a few weeks, just by appearing on this and for people giving some money, and she's raised all that money, which is really just wonderful. And obviously, Thorsten's a great fan of the incinerator anyway, so we're preaching to the converted on this one as well, which is great.
I love it.
If anyone,
anything.
Honestly, it works. It's not just hype. If anyone wants to come on and have a chat on a Sunday, even if it's you and a mate, if you don't want to come on your own, just give me a shout, because I'd far rather talk to real people, Thorsten, about stuff and about real world stuff than anything else. So you're very, very welcome. If you've just bought your first synth, or if you are an amazing synthesist that's been around for years, I'm sure other people will find your story interesting. So please just give me a shout on here, leave me a message, or on Facebook or whatever, and join us again next Sunday, 7 o'clock, same time, same place, for another one of these. Thank you very much indeed, Thorsten. It's been brilliant.
Thank
See
you
again
again.
soon. All
Take
right.
care.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Urbanist connect, so with the herb pipe, link up the harmonized, left the termite, but beyond obsolete blessings, a birthright. To live a life which a lot more in us, worldwide. Cosmic love energy, I go herbicide free, organically, me say worthwhile. Watch the way one of you change term points in terms of definitions and some termites. Yes, I check the eye. One side is defined by one side the other. I.e. I am an ideas man. I assign too much of the qualities of my guy. Who's we if I'm talking like this to me?